So Daredevil's back. A lot of people were hyped. A lot of people were concerned. I fell somewhere between cautious expectations and optimism. And after watching episode 1, I see why. Greetings and salutations. Today we're going to be talking about Daredevil Born Again, which is Disney Plus's continuation of the Netflix Daredevil series. Needless to say, we can just call this Daredevil Season 4 or Daredevil Born Again for the 4th time because, golly, the existential crisis on this man. Back with Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio, and John Bernthal, who has yet to be featured in the series thus far, depending on when I upload this video. Kind of exciting. This is our first after watch party. Really excited to see what you guys think of the episode. Comment down below how you feeling, how you doing. I'd like to know. And as always, as a disclaimer, I'm not going to be doing a huge in-depth play-by-play of what's going on. I'm just going to hit my main points and I want to talk about some overall plot stuff and move on from there. Secondly, I haven't watched all the intertwining plots that Daredevil has with other characters, whether it's on Disney Plus or Netflix. Daredevil doesn't really rely on those plot threads from those shows, so this is kind of new, as well as touching on old things from the old Daredevil show. But if there's any deep cut references to those shows, probably will go over my head. I'll try and do a quick Google search if I don't understand it, but just let me know politely in the comments. And lastly, although assuming all of you have seen Daredevil, if you haven't, spoilers ahead and onwards. This episode is pretty messy, especially since they're throwing a lot at us to catch us up to where the show actually starts. I'm glad we at least had 15 minutes of nostalgia. You know, Matt and the gang are hanging out at the bar. Bullseye shows up in his, I'm in between costumes right now, and shoots Foggy and he ends up dying. Then we end up doing a year time skip and Matt retires the horns and somehow becomes a better lawyer without Foggy. I'm talking a successful law firm with several underlings he's actually paying. I'm talking the high-rise apartment building that he has with big windows. But what does Matt care? He's blind. Foggy is dead. And I understand completely that Matt would just do a whole rebranding of himself and it would maybe be for the better of him. But we're just gonna fast track all of that. That was fast. We really went for the jugular within 15 minutes. The gang gets back together after several years, and in the same episode, they are discarded for a new cast. Poindexter is dead. In the same episode, Poindexter is actually not dead, and he's thrown underneath the prison. Wilson Fisk wants to become mayor, and ends up becoming mayor by the end of this episode. We are doing a lot. Foggy's death grinds my gears because it's a rush sequence with high impact on Matt and Karen's life. That is their best friend, especially for a beloved character we haven't seen in years and proceeds to get bodied in the span of 8 minutes. Sure, you can read it through the dialogue of how stiff it is because you know something is about to happen and predict the outcome that, yeah, one of these characters is probably gonna die. It just feels a bit sucky because it feels like a false start. I can't be too mad the way Matt drops his mask off the building and the intro cues in with the music. It's not bad. And as a result of this, Matt still holds the memorial card for Foggy in his heart pocket. And it's a nice little touching moment to see that he connects everything that he does now to the night he lost his best friend. I see someone's been taking notes. And then Christmas treeing all the way down to the rest of this episode because certain things the show gets right and other things it gets wrong. It has a lot of other visual improvements that I consider as it trying to distinguish itself from the Netflix series, and I can at least respect the show for trying to do something like that. I kind of like that Matt's focus senses were similar to Spider-Man No Way Home's, where they just kind of zoom in on Matt. They didn't execute it in quite the same way, but it's still pretty good to see for a character like Matt because they act in the same circuit, minus the feeling of danger. But there's nothing that reminds you more that this is a Marvel Studios project when they have blurred green screen backdrops and poorly placed CGI that looks like it's from a PS2 game. Why do we keep doing this? To be frank, Bullseye versus Daredevil wasn't very good in this episode. The show Daredevil naturally operates with practical stunts and is darkly lit. You know, it's Hell's Kitchen. This reflects Matt's view and also what the city has to offer when it's infested with crime. I'm not sure why we have CGI for Matt just punching a guy on a rooftop or artificially shaky cam, but I do understand when we have Matt swinging from long distances with a whip. I could have went this entire show not seeing it. I never understood it, nor in the comics or in actual live action purposes. You can explain in the comments down below how this works. For me, I don't get it. They continue the show's one-shot action, which is great. You know, as a fan of the old Daredevil series, you're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get more of these. But watching it being executed within the first 15 minutes, I'm like, well, why does it look slower? I don't know if maybe this is their 10th time filming these choreography fight scenes, but it's not fluid. It looks like the camera quality is also downgraded and it can't operate in low lighting settings, so it looks grainy. I don't know if that's a stylized approach, but It didn't work for me. For me also, I'm by no means an expert filmographer, but it doesn't make sense to have Bullseye walk into a darkly lit bar, throw tear gas into this bar, and then film a fight scene in an already dark scene that I can barely see. I'm sure Matt's fine. Like, this is a regular Tuesday at 9 p.m. for him. Wilson Fisk returns and he's different. You know, being shot in the face can do that to a person. But what I can ascertain from this episode is to either appear changed or die trying. He seems more patient, less wimpy, a little more calculated, and he's trying to separate himself from the crime world, which causes some marital issues for him in the long run. Vanessa does feel different as a result. I didn't watch Echo, and as it turns out, neither did 80% of the people that are watching the show right now. They do a brief mention of her, hence why I know about him being shot in the face, and Wilson makes an attempt to mentor this person, and you're free to Google the rest. Vanessa's been running the crime syndicates in place of Wilson Fisk as Queenpin. So while Fisk intends to be a mayor for New York, they now have to protect their assets and dump the rest. That means Vanessa can no longer run these groups, and it creates tension between the two characters, which is interesting to see now that Wilson is no longer putting her on a pedestal. And on top of that, the crime syndicates will be fighting amongst themselves to be just as highly or replace Wilson Fisk himself. The court of public opinion becomes an important aspect throughout the story. I like the fact that they miss Daredevil and the fact that they have concerns about Wilson Fisk becoming mayor from Felon. Does it hinder on political commentary? Sure, but not very. It's very light spread. Both Fisk and Matt want to save the city. They just disagree on how. And there's an element of something that continuously connects them together, and I like that. I like the diner sequence and how surreal that felt, especially leaving off of season 3 of Daredevil. And a deal is brokered between the two. If one starts to pick up old habits again, the gloves are off. And one of them might be 6 feet underground. Some fans, and I could say that I'm just a tad in this circuit, might feel that this whole plotline feels repetitive, but this is just how Daredevil is. Matt's direction in the narrative is continuously a push and pull between his vigilante nature versus his belief in the justice system and religion. It is called Daredevil Born Again, so I'm assuming this is going to be a simmer pot kind of plot. Yes, I know last season we just witnessed Matt have a whole building dropped on him and be bitter and recovering the entire season, but this is a new show. It's a new side of Matt, different atmosphere, but still maintains that low-level hero aspect that we all liked from the old show. The plan for Hell's Kitchen under Fisk is still a little murky. Again, this is episode 1. It definitely stumbled out the gate. I usually give a show about 3 episodes before I decide to check out, so if my assumptions are true, probably won't be continuing the show because this episode could definitely turn off a lot of fans from watching the Disney Plus series. I think if you go into this expecting it to mirror exactly like the Netflix series, you're gonna be wildly disappointed. So continue to keep cautious expectations. But what did you guys think? Did Daredevil Born Again kind of set you off, or are you feeling like this is a pretty strong start? Let me know in the comments down below along with your theories and inquiries. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe because fun stuff happens here sometimes. But anyway, I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Or at least in this case, episode 2 and 3. Bye.